Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Sally Pinto and I'm from the Yonkers North neighborhood naturally occurring retirement community. We launched back in January of 2020 and we're here to serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We have lots of fun programs and activities, and we also have a lot of resources for you as well. Our programs include meditation chair yoga, body mind fitness, bingo, and any other programs that you might be interested, like arts and gardening. We have our resource specialist, Alexa Smith, who can help you with finding services and activities out there for you, as well as our nurse, Barbara Simone, who can help answer your health-related questions. We're here for you, we're here for our community, and we look forward to seeing you in our programs. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alexa Smith, the resource specialist with the Yonkers North. I'm here to help with application assistance, referrals for home delivered meals, and transportation services will be coming soon. We also offer Zoom activities and Zoom programs. And if you have any other questions or concerns, I'm here to help. Thank you so much and enjoy the program.
Welcome. I'm Barbara Simone, registered nurse. I recently retired from Westchester County's Health Department as a public health nurse. I am now here to try to assist you with any medical or preventive care issues. Enjoy this program, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Every month we sort of have a theme for what to do, and January is a little tough because we're not gardening in January, and usually I recommend things or places for people to go so that they can really enjoy public gardens, like Longwood Gardens in Delaware, the New York Botanical Garden, and Wave Hill, for example, around here, and Untermeyer Gardens. And they're open off and on, but a lot of people who are in our age group, it's not really safe for them to be going out right now. And you have to make reservations, and I understand their precautions, but sometimes it's just enough to keep you from saying, oh, I'm just not gonna go. It's too many hurdles to get over. I'm just gonna stay home. So I thought, well, what do we do for this January month? And this is really a month where you sort of contemplate spring, because you have to have something to look forward to. And so I thought what today might be fun to do is, since we're not outside, is just think about the spring. And I thought it would be fun. I went through all my old photographs and I just picked out ones that I thought were kind of fun to look at. So I think today, all you have to do really is just sit back, relax, and look at pretty pictures. It's not going to cause a lot of stress on the brain, but it's really that kind of month, you know, where you sit down and do jigsaw puzzles or do all these things that'll just keep you happy and visually entertained at home. So that's what we're going to do today. I did want to hold up this. It didn't make it into a slide. I sent it. Phil didn't get it. I didn't even have a receipt that I sent it. But this is one of my favorite New Yorker. It's a New Yorker. It's one of my favorite New Yorker covers. And there's a woman, you know, there we are. That's where I usually feel in the, you know, walking into your garden. Good morning, everybody. And I'm ready to spend the day out there in joy and happiness. I figured this was a really great thing to look at in January because none of us are feeling like that right now. Okay, can we start the slideshow? Now, this is going to be a hodgepodge of stuff. Little things that I looked at all my garden pictures for the last 10 years, and I thought, what would people want to see? And a lot of them, I was reminded of what they were because I'd forgotten all about them. Okay, I'll wait until you're started. So this is like just a real mixed bag. But these are the things. Okay, birds. This is a really cute picture. I love this picture. You have to take 1,000 pictures with your phone until one of the birds cooperates. But here's a old birdhouse that I have on a trellis, and the clematis was blooming beautifully, and the little baby bird, who was probably a week and a half old, stuck his little face out, and I just had to capture it. And this one works. There are many that didn't. Next. Next slide, please.
Hold on, having technical difficulties. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I also felt that the clematis kind of helped protect the bird and keep the birdhouse cool.
There you go.
There's another birdhouse. It's in my front yard up on a pole. These are all in places where animals can't get to them. This has a little, I found it online. It has a little rooster weather vane at the top. But the birds love this. And sometimes, you know, when it snows, the birdhouse looks extra pretty in the winter. Next. Whoops. Here are 3 birdhouses that they're all funky. I kind of like funky looking birdhouses. I've since moved some of them around because the birds need, what I've learned about this, and it may be helpful information, is the birds like to have their nesting areas at least 10 feet apart. So, I mean, this was really cute. I put it up and then I realized they weren't moving in because they weren't 10 feet apart. So that's something to pay attention to. Next. Back one, please. Here's another birdhouse that I have. It's very popular. This is the most popular birdhouse. I don't know why, but it is. It's on one of the pillars on my porch. And here's a mom sparrow. We don't really seem to get fabulous species of birds. I don't know why, but I'm happy to have all the sparrows around. And here's a mom flying in with some tasty bits to feed her little babies. I just thought they were cute. And the red birdhouse looks nice next to the red maple down there. Next. Here's a bird. This is an old birdhouse I had that I just loved. It eventually fell apart, so it was a really great photo of urban decay. But anyway, this is when it was brand new, and it was pouring rain, and there it is. And it's really nice when it's bright white and it stands out among the greenery behind it. This is all in Yonkers / Bronxville. It's on the west side of Bronxville. We're in the PO, but we're really in Yonkers. So I just thought that was really cute. It was an interesting architecture that would really nicely stand out on its own. Next. Here's a little guy I just hung up. I found these online. There's a little pathway down to the back north side of my house, and so I just hung those on the branches. What I've discovered is that many birds don't like swinging birdhouses. So I've just left them there because they're cute and they blend in well with the stones, but they don't really get occupied, but they look really sweet. Next. And I always keep a bird bath, excuse me. I have one in the front yard, one in the back, and I keep it under that red maple that you saw in the other picture, and they just love it, and they're there all the time, and it's just a great thing to have, and I like the way they're silhouetted in the shade against the sunny backdrop. Next. Okay, switching gears now. In front of my house, I had this steep hill because I'm on the side of the banks of the Bronx River, and nobody in my neighborhood has a big yard, but they're all very interesting shapes. And I had this very steep hill, which was the bane of my existence. And as we get older, you know, none of us are meant to be billy goats. So I found I was either falling down on it. I mean, I used to have lots of stones in there and plants and all sorts of things, but I really couldn't take care of it very well. So this fall, I had the guys from Nature Cradle come and see. And you can see the background. There's a guy in the background. You can see the bag. I had them strip it and have it terraced. Okay, next slide, please. And here's when they were all finished, nice and clean, but this isn't what I needed to have happen. So next. Boom, there that goes. I mean, this is, I had it done this fall because I really need something to get excited about and look forward to in the spring. So with railroad ties, they terraced it for me, and there are steps in the middle so that I can go up the steps and move to each side. Only a few perennials were able to be saved, which was fine. I'm happy to buy all new plants. They look a little droopy, but the thing about transplanting things that are perennial in this fall is that even though they don't look so hot on the top, the rooting system really grows beautifully through December. And so they should be really ready. And it's all been new ground, new fertilizer, lots of good things in the soil. So the ground should sort of cook over the winter time and then be really ready for things in the spring. Right now, and they will eventually fade. These railroad ties will eventually become gray. Right now they have that new sneaker look. But it's also, I've discovered, a great place to go sit, because yesterday, for example, it was, 40, but it was sunny. So, I take a cup of tea and I go up those steps in the middle, which kind of looks like they're going to the Parthenon, because right now it really stands out. But it's nice to sit up there and you get a whole new perspective on your yard. So even if you're not building anything new, try to go to a different part of your yard that you really don't go to very often and look back. It's amazing what you find. You think, oh, this is a whole new piece of property. Next. Here are the little steps in the middle. This is all brand new right after it was done. Clearly I didn't move the trash in the front. And it's near the bird bath, but it's just great to be able to walk up there and be able to get to my plants. And now and also the ground being flat, the water will get absorbed, because for years with that hill, the water just ran off all the time, and it was just really too hard. Next. And that's the other direction. And I have since mulched it with hay. So everything's nice and neat and tidy and all settled down for the winter and snuggled in there. And hopefully come spring, we'll put lots of wonderful, fun things in there. Next. And here it is in the fall. The backlighting against the red maple is always a fun thing for me. Backlighting is great for lots of plants. And there's my doggie up there on the right. Unfortunately, he passed away 3 days before Thanksgiving. So I thought this is a great way to end 2020, to have your steady companion die on you. But that's what happened. But I'm glad I have that picture, because he looks very happy and he loved to be up there. Next. This was shot in again, the winter, but at night. I have an arbor at the top of the street, which in the summer is covered with a vine. But in the wintertime, I leave the white lights on it all winter until April, because I like to consider it sort of my winter vine. And it's not colored, so it doesn't reflect any one particular holiday. And there's the birdhouse with a real cap of snow on it. And there's an urn in front of it. You can see the steep driveway. So, when you live on the side of a hill, you have to take advantage of what you can deal with and then change what you can't deal with. But I always like the white lights in the snowstorm, or even on a dark, horrible evening. It really just cheers everybody up. And plus you can figure out where I live. Next. I put this slide in because I think this was taken at Wave Hill. When you visit a garden center, it's very important, I think, to take pictures of the signs that are next to the flowers that you go ooh and ah over. Now at Wave Hill, for example, they don't like to be a garden of signs, but they do put out several several signs, but not as much as I would like, because the one I always drool over, it doesn't have a sign next to it. But when you go visiting, take your phone or your camera with you, or write this stuff down, because it's really frustrating when you get home and you think, what was that thing? And now we know that this is a Gentiana scabra, which I don't have. But so that's just a pointer when you're going to the garden center, to take pictures of anything that's written down. Next. This is my house from the street. Again, this is the front yard, the hill that was there. You have to look way down. So I've told you before, if you haven't been to the series, I don't have a lawn or anything like that. I have just a series of garden rooms. So this was taken from the street looking down. So we've got in the front a little area where we can sit. It has a gazebo over it, which has a vine on it. And then there's a little place where you can have lunch under the umbrella. Behind that is a fabulous Crepe Myrtle that I adore. It used to be next to the driveway and it was fine. And then I moved it to the north side of the house where it's shady and it's still fine. It's a really tough plant. So if you're looking for something like that, that's your baby. I only have 1/8 of an acre, but if you plan every corner, you can get a lot out of it. Next. That's the arbor. We found it at the antique garden furniture sale, which they have, well, until there was a pandemic. Every April, they have it at the New York Botanical Garden. And frequently, if you go back on Sunday night, many of these seemingly expensive antiques are very cheap because the antiques dealer don't want to take them home. So we went back on Sunday night and we got this arbor, which we put together in about 5 minutes. And we have different vines that we put on it. And in the background, you can see that was a retaining wall we put because my neighbor is up on the hill beyond me. And that is what will happen to the new railroad ties. They will turn this wonderful shade of gray. So we have it there, so it looks like the back end of a backside of a barn. And on it, I just put on old tools that I will never use, but they look really great against the wall. And there's a little window there too that we put up. So that helps reflect and make your garden look a little bigger. Next. I don't know why that got in there and why it's fuzzy. This is what the hill looked like. Well, anyway, here we go. This is the hill before it became the bane of my existence. This is when it looked okay. What I decided to do, we had gotten rid of the pachysandra, is I just put a lot of drought-loving plants with lots of different textures up on the hill. And next to it is a little path that takes you down to the gazebo. This is when it looked great, but this does have to be taken care of. And after a while, and the older I got, it was just too much to deal with. So I took a picture of it when it looked great, and now it's a whole new thing. Next. I do love texture in a garden, and one of the reasons I showed you that picture of the hill, I remember now, was it really was a great texture of small, shrubby little plants. I also love the texture of the wood when we collected in the fall for the winter. That was on one of my calendars last year, I believe it was. I just think texture in the garden is really, really important, and it can come from just more than just flowers. And this was the wood, and I think it looks great. Okay, next. Oops, we missed one. No, is that where we are? Okay, I don't really know the, oh, there we go. This was just one of those moments where you walk around your garden. I always take the camera, which is really on my phone, with me. And I have a water garden in the back, which is on the hill, but below the house. And again, here were some lovely textures. You know, I had the water lilies were out. The frogs were not there, but there was a water lily, and it was very, very still. And all of a sudden it had that real mirror effect. So I just snapped this. So if you go around your yard or in your house and all of a sudden, you know, the sunlight looks great or your plants are looking particularly good, it's nice to just snap the picture, because the moment doesn't last all that long. And when you go back and look at it over time, it really reminds you of really happy times. Next. This water feature is great. I mean, my husband and I built it ourselves. It's tiny, it's not very big, but we have lots of fish, and they're very calming to look at, as you know. We found in the very top to the left a little bit is a cover of an old, I don't know what it was, furnace or something, and we found that, so I put that there. Yeah, it's just really, water is very important if you can get it in there. There is a waterfall there too. But I like it sort of rough and natural. I didn't want anything too stiff. Next. Oh, this is one of my favorites. We had frogs for years, and one of them jumped away after I had walked by with a little squeal, and he left a bathing suit mark. And I just thought this was the cutest ever. You can see his webbed feet are towards the front of the camera. I just thought that was adorable. Next. And here's a shot of the waterfall, and things do grow over. So what's really nice in the middle of the summer is the source of the water isn't quite clear, and that's just great. It looks like it's coming out of shrubs. I mean, one person did ask me if we had hooked into the Bronx River, which is way below us. I went, no, this is a stage set. You set it up and the water just recycles and recycles. But it's a nice little quiet corner with water burbling, and it's, you know, it's fun. Next. Every once in a while you look out the window and the little squirrels or somebody's doing something very cute. And in this case, these two squirrels were sort of snuggling up on the roof of my mudroom, and I just had to snap the picture. Next. This is back to the front again, before we had the gazebo. Fabric is very healthy and very much fun in the garden. You can sort of, what we do is we use it to sort of block the sun on the porch, and also to sort of soften up the corner that we sit in. It also blocks the neighbors, particularly if there's a bunch of it behind that little sofa that you see there. And otherwise, and this is what a lot of people have problems with, you know, they really want to block out their neighbor's house. on most corners of the garden. So in our case, otherwise we have a wonderful view of their laundry room. So this way you kind of set a stage for yourself and without offending the neighbors with anything unattractive. Next. Well, I looked out the window one day. My dog was sitting on one of the urns. This was probably March, I think, or April. It was just one of those adorable moments, the Kodak moment, where I just had to take her picture. And there you have it. Next. At night, what we try to do at night is bring out candles and torches and all sorts of things, because in the summer, it's wonderful to come sit out there. So you could either sit on the porch, you could sit under the gazebo, which is what's in the front. I have a few torches, I have candles, I have little, I have one little electric light next to the sofa there. And it's warm and it's cozy and it's fun. And you know how your house suddenly doubles in size in the summer because you're suddenly using the outside more than the inside. Next. I have this pig and I bought him at the Boscobel gift shop, and he's been around for about 10 years. And I have several pictures of the pig because he's a little worn out now. This was a while ago, but this pig can move around and he can change the contents of his basket quite frequently. And he really helps a lot. Right now, he's got nothing in him, but next we can see that this was spring, obviously. So he's great with the little Johnny jump ups in his baskets. Next. And here he is in the fall with some red chilies in him. Next. This was summer. He had some pink begonias. He's usually next to the urn, but sometimes he moves around. Next. And here he is in the snow, and he still stays out, but it doesn't seem to bother him. Next. This is Christmas time. He had some red berries. These were fake, but the squirrels tried to eat them anyway. But he looks, jolly and cheery with the red in the white snow. Next. And then he has some little Christmas balls, which are always fun. And if he's on the porch, he doesn't get that snowed on. Next. This is, again, in the spring. I love him from the back. He got some white pansies, which then carried through to the, the basket on the gate. Next. The fall, we had a little early snow, so I put some great big pine cones in him. Next. And here he is in the spring down to next to the forget-me-nots with some little purple Johnny jump ups. Next. This is oxalis. He had that in the summer. Again, you have to put in plants that don't, if they dry out, you have to be able to have him nearby because these little baskets aren't very big. So they do tend to dry out. He gets watered every day. I thought the purple was pretty. Next. And of course, at Halloween, he gets pumpkins. He's really fun to sort of move around and, you find funny little things to put in there. Next. Here he is coordinated with the urn with the purple pansies in the springtime. Next. I think it's funny to have a little humor in your garden. My mother had this, and that's kind of the way she talked. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So just for fun, I stuck that in there. I'm not a big believer in signs, but I just thought this was pretty funny because that's many times how we all feel, but nobody wants to say it out loud. Next. Oops. This is, I think a lot of this is, to me, what I call whimsy in the garden. The pig is a bit of whimsy. The little sign was a bit of whimsy. And, it's very nice as people are walking around to find these little surprises. This is a rooster. I bought him at Carlson's greenhouse, which unfortunately has gone out of business, but it's up on Dobbs Ferry Road, right off the Sprain. But they are helping a new nursery come in. So I think it's going to be pretty consistent. This is a rooster made out of strips of metal. And he moved around for a bit until he found a permanent home. Next. Here he is. We found a hen to go with him. And so he sits, it's an old Singer sewing machine that's got pebbles in it. And they sit together on hens and chicks, the little succulents. I thought that was clever if anybody could sort of pick it up on it. Otherwise, it's just cute. Next. And I just love them from the back. It's like watching little kids from the back. Sometimes they're cuter from the back than the front. The hen really is a chunk. And you can see on the bottom there, it says Singer backwards. Next. And they get snowed on as well. And they also had some fake red berries in December. But it was a pretty picture. And they still sit there. They're pretty, sorry, pretty sturdy. Next. Another nice piece of whimsy is if you can plant old logs that you find if they have holes in them. And I found these by the side of the road, and I just picked them up and put stuff in there, usually succulents, because if it dries out, you know, these things, there's not a big hole in there. And and the wood, of course, absorbs the water pretty quickly. So they're basically succulents and portulaca up at the top. Next. You know, another nice piece of whimsy is to, you know, this is a little place where we sit. There's a funny little rusty watering can there. And the planter is a great big, I found it in an old farm antique show. I guess they used to put bushels of stuff in there. I don't know, but it kind of spoke to me. Next. There's the little, yeah, and I think the texture of the little watering can with the flowers, the hay, and then the bricks. It's a nice textural picture. Next. Oops. Here's another one. You can do great things with old watering cans. Sometimes I plant in them, and sometimes they just sit there among other textures. I like the texture of these leaves, which also have different colors, and they're different plants. And then right next to the watering can that looks like an explosion is a dried allium. Allium are great in the spring, and they have all different sizes and colors. But then when they dry, they look great in the garden, even though they're lost everything and they're just dry. They give you real sparkle as you walk around your garden. Next. This again, just, you know, it said Sutton Seeds. It was our name. It's an old seed bag. I don't know how old it is. I just thought it was funny, so we have it on the front porch. Next. I happen to love old farm equipment. Not that I have a farm and I have no intention of using it, and I really have a small piece of property, but we have all these ferns and things. And this is an old wheel, an old plow that I just thought it was lightweight. It wasn't super heavy, and I just stuck it in among the ferns. And, you know, if you notice it, great. If you don't, fine. But I just liked having it there. Next. There's an old wheelbarrow we found. And as I told you, the old tools in the background, those I think were in my father's garage. I don't think he ever used them either. But, you know, you can find these things up. I wanted something on the wall that was just not a wall. I wanted something that gave you some texture again. And then with the old farm equipment with the geraniums in them, it really helped. And then on top of the wall, I had planted some nasturtium seeds, which sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But this particular group was beautiful, and they decided to cascade over the side. And I was very pleased with that particular moment. Next. And here it is in the wintertime. The window is all frosted up, but you know, the tools take on a whole new texture in the winter, because in the winter we frequently look out and go, oh, everything looks awful. But if you try to keep some things for winter interest, it does make you feel better when you look out the window. Next. Yeah, I love metal in the garden too. This was another piece of whimsy and texture. I don't know, that little stand on the left, that's a backdrop. We found that somewhere, and it's a nice backdrop against a beige wall. That's my neighbor's wall. I thought, well, it needs something in front of it. And then on the right is my son is he graduated in industrial design from Pratt, and he likes to make things. He's always made wonderful things with metal. So this was a screen he made. It's eventually fallen over, but you know, for many years there it was, and it just blocked off, you know, some really unattractive stuff in the background that belonged to my neighbors. Next. There, when we used to put the lounge chair we had in front of it, again, that was a lounge chair from an old furniture shop. And the neighbor actually one day said, my neighbor at the time said, would you mind if I put up an adobe wall? I went, absolutely not. So he put little windows in it, and then he decided to put in these little rusted metal grids, which he knew would look good in my yard and also in his yard. So don't we all wish we had a neighbor like that who was, you know, as charming and as with it as he was. Next. Here's the old wheelbarrow, like the pig. It gets different in different contents. This obviously was it's Carlson's. They always did a wonderful display of pumpkins. They didn't just have orange ones. So I used to pick up many different textures and put it there in the wheelbarrow. Next. And that old window I took it to Tuckahoe Paint and Glass, and they put the mirrors in it. It really, it lightens up the wall, and it also reflects back what's behind you in the garden, so that it really gives your space a lot more, the illusion of space that it really has. And there's a dog in there, if I believe, yes. Next. The reason I put this in here is, again, a little bit of texture. That's an old section of fencing that I found. It's really not holding anything back or in, but I just thought it looked really nice against the plants. And I didn't have to throw it out. Eventually I did, but it, you know, looks nice. Next. And that's an old wagon wheel we had. It was falling apart, but I just laid it against the wisteria vine, the trunk of it. And it just kind of gives a little texture to otherwise, you know, a bed of plants that, you know, probably need a little focus. Next. This is another old window, which now hangs on a wall, but initially I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. So this is a very white, dead corner. So I put the window there next to an urn and the flowers and everything. It just softened it all up. It gave us texture and color, and it really helped illuminate the space. Next. This in the distance, that's the base of a bird bath that died. And I always put little succulents coming out of it. And I also found these little baskets made out of twigs. And I just thought they were a very nice way to put in a flower that's just not in a dumb old pot, you know. It just gave a little more texture, and it will help reflect the fact that there was the tree in the distance. Because it's nice to have pebbles and leaves and flowers and color and wood, so that you really get a sense of forest and Mother Nature. Next. And then under the wisteria, under this mammoth pergola that we have, our property is 50 feet wide. It's 50 by 100, which is standard for Yonkers. And we lost a tree, so we put this pergola in there, and it's 50 feet. And I found these old stained glass windows, which were perfect. I hung them there. You get the morning light through them, and below is a seating area, so that, you know, you feel like you're kind of in a special place. They eventually fell apart, but I just loved them. We had them for years and years. So the translucency was great. And it also hid the fact that my neighbor hasn't painted his house in 500 years. Next. Oh, this old barrel. Yeah, that was great. Again, nice piece of texture near the gate with a, you know, basket on top of it. I just loved it. I happen to love rust and wood and brick and stone and all the hard surfaces, not just the plants. Next. Yes, this is my little hedgehog. We found him at the New York Botanical Garden antique furniture sale, and he was on sale on a Sunday night, so we grabbed him. And he's subtle. He's sort of in there with the plants. You don't notice him right away. If you notice him, great. If you don't, fine. But he's in there and he's happy. Next. This is an old birdhouse that the birds never went into because it swings, and the hole was too big. So I turned it into a planter. And again, you can just put something. I have to put something on the more common side because anything too fancy wouldn't have done well in there. But, you know, if you put the impatiens in there, water it when you remember, they're fine. Next. Oops, there's another wheelbarrow. And sometimes it just needs pots. It didn't need plants. Thank you. Next. Oh, and there's a little bunny. He was, again, he just spoke to me. I wasn't looking for a bunny, but there he was, and he has a pot in front of him. So he looks very nice next to the old watering can, and we'll have some flowers in it. Next. This is the rooster before we had the hen. So he got some autumn, I think autumn little plant things. I can't even remember what they are. And then a pile of pumpkins. Next. This is a tree in front of my house that eventually they had to take down. In our neighborhood, they planted all these Norway maples in 1889 when the neighborhood was founded. And they have a lifespan of about 75 years. Well, they've outlived their lives by twice. So when you get, I think they were supposed, when you're in 1889 and you realize you probably will live till the 60s, that sounds like a long time away. But when you move in the 80s and it's already a good 20, 30 years beyond what it should have been. Well, so they had to take the tree down, but they took it to the hedge level because Con Ed took it down. So they, of course, don't take it all the way. They take it below the wires, and then you're left with the trunk. And in the middle of the trunk was a big hole. So at first I put a basket on top of it with plants. Eventually the hole got bigger, so that became the new planter. And then eventually we had to take it all down. But I just thought it was an interesting thing for people on the sidewalk as they walk by to see. Next. There's another, I don't know why I did this, but there's another shot with the wisteria of the stained glass. Next. My mother said, well, people will come down and they'll think it's a footpath. Well, no, this is a sign. We found it for like $100 at the York Botanical sale. Sometimes you go and you think, I've just got to buy something. And we bought this, and it just sits in the garden. It's from England, and they now make them in England out of metal. So they were selling the old one. I thought it was cute next to the flowers and also near the birdhouse. And there's that dastardly hill in the background. Next. Here's some little frogs that blend in with the rocks. Again, they're subtle, so they don't stick out right away. And again, with the water, the whole thing with the stones and the pebbles and the water, it's just a really nice addition to a garden. Next. Pathways, they're really important. This is a mulch pathway, and if you put something bright and colorful at the very end of it, you need a focal point, I think, with paths. And so this was a bright red canna with the bird bath on the left and the dastardly hill on the right. So if you're coming away from the gazebo, which is where this was taken from, you're sort of lured down because there's a bit of a curve there, and there's a red, beautiful plant at the end for you to go look at. Next. Stone makes a wonderful pathway too. We have little steps that we put in the side of the house. They've been in about 3 years, but the guy who did it was great. It's very natural looking. It looks like it's been there forever, which is what I wanted. I didn't want anything to look new. And at the bottom, he made a little terrace for us, which we can then plant behind. Next. This is the view back from that red canna. You go back to the path that was mulched to the gazebo at the back, and on the left is the hill, which when it was still looking pretty good, but starting to disappear. But I just wanted to show you that, pathways work well. They're great because they lead your eye through the garden and towards the end. It gives a sense of motion. Next. Steps are great too. Old stone steps. The stones are old, the steps are new. But if you put it so it all fits with the property that you have, that works. I have an old house, so I wanted things to look old. I don't have a new modern house. Next. We use, my neighbor was getting rid of her bricks, and this takes you on the north side of the house down to the second lower level. We have 3 levels because we're on this hill. So I had the guy who did the stones from Nature's Cradle. He just made me some nice steps in the back, which again leads you down. And I wanted to have something that was a focal point at the end. So I bought a great big pot, and in it are elephant ears. which this was taken in the spring, I believe. So it takes a little while for them to get really big, but they really do, call you down to the end of the path. And underneath, behind the elephant ears is the pergola. So you can see my property is not that big. Next. And here's the pathway from the porch. I like the fact that it sort of shows through in the distance beyond the dark trees of the, wait a minute, what is that? I've only had it for 1,000 years. Sometimes you're talking about gardens, the cypress, sorry, the cypress. And it was supposed to be a dwarf cypress, but it wasn't. But I like I've kept it trimmed on the bottom so that you can look through it and see the wonderful dark textures of the trunks and the red maples next to it with the bird bath, but in the spring, and there's the little plow. And it's nice to have the path at the end. It sort of gives you a focal point beyond what you're looking at. Next. There's the wisteria. I wanted to show you pictures of the wisteria. On the left is a wooden fence that obviously was coming down. But in the spring, we put this up, probably in the late 90s. And eventually the wisteria has covered it. It stops everybody in the neighborhood when they walk by. The only problem, and it smells fantastic, and it does cover up the house behind me, which, and there, underneath, you'll see the little stained glass windows. But the only problem is when it's finished blooming, all that purple blossoms just all fall all over the ground. You've got about 4 inches of purple below, but you have to rake that up pretty fast or it all gets stuck to everything. But for the 2 weeks in May that this blooms, it's just heaven. Next. And I'm glad we decided to do that. Here it is underneath in May. Everything's kind of purple, which is lovely. And there's the wagon wheel and the screen that my son made at the far end. Next. Here's a close-up of some of the blossoms. I mean, they can be a foot long. They're just spectacular. Next. There's a good close-up. I go nuts when this thing blooms because you really need to see it close up to get and the smell is just, makes you happy. Next. And here, I love the way it drapes over the pergola so we can sit underneath. It's right over the waterfall. And, when you just need a quiet moment, you have to create these little spots where you can just go. Next. That's from the other end, looking back. That's my husband in the chair. So, and the great thing about this is after it's bloomed, the leaves are really, really, they're small, but there's a lot of them. And so we have created our own shade under there, which was really important because as I said to you, we lost the tree at the street and we had 2 dogwoods in the mid 80s in the backyard here when we moved in and they died. And so we were just, exposed to the sun. And I love that for certain plants, but you have to make your own shade. And so the pergola has really, really helped. So it's nice and really dark under there and cool on a really hot summer day. You can still stay outside. Next. That's looking back at the other end. You can see how dark it is up above. We do give the wisteria a haircut after it blooms. If you look at the wagon wheel, just above the wagon wheel, it's leaning against the wisteria. So you can see how thick the thing is. Initially, we tried to get rid of it and it just kept right on going. I mean, you can't kill that thing. So we decided to join it rather than fight it. Next. That's what when you're taking a little snooze in the backyard, you look up and that's what you see. It's really, and then birds build their nests up there sometimes. The squirrels love to run around there so they don't get into my plants, which is great. Next. Another little area, another shot. I love the way it's, sparkly, and we've changed the upholstery a couple of times, you can tell. Next. Oh, I think that's it. Okay. Well, as I said, collected a whole lot of old pictures. I thought, well, this will be kind of fun. We'll just go around and look at everything. So I hope you got some ideas out of it. It was fun for me to go down memory lane because that's probably 20 years of slides.
Catherine, that was wonderful. I saw most of it. I had to jump off to take a call and I didn't know that would hang me up for the Zoom. But the things you've done in your garden are so inspiring. And And I love when you said you don't have any grass.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a lot of grass and I don't really have a lot of, well, I have I have like 1/10 of an acre. So I have a tiny, tiny place, but you gave me some ideas and I thank you for that. It was
You're
so
welcome.
colorful, so beautiful. Obviously years of planning, and I was going to ask if maybe I could borrow your pig for some cheese shop discovery.
Anytime. He's very mobile. He'll be happy to serve you any way he wants.
It was so cute. I mean, adorable. Maybe I can find a sheep like that, but yeah.
Well,
I
the whole
don't know
point
that-
is you have to keep your eyes open when you're out there. You know, stuff will just grab you and you go, I've got to have this. I don't know what I'll do with it, but I've got to have it.
It's gorgeous. And your fish in the pond, I mean, in the like little rotating water thing feature you have. I just loved it. It was soothing to watch, and thank you for sharing all the work that you've done.
Oh, good. Well, brilliant.
Thanks. And I just wanted to say that one of the things we're doing in Yonkers in 2021 is we're supporting gardens. So I would love to have, the gardeners who are obviously interested here to be aware of that. We're going to do some gardens in the library. This is county funding for better and more green gardens in Yonkers. So I will keep you up to date, but now that I know, Catherine, that you're such a great resource, I will definitely try to pull you in.
Good.
We need more gardens.
Yeah, green spaces are important, and they can be done in really, really tiny, funny little spots. And
Yeah.
Throughout our neighborhood, we've got little funny little gardens that are Yonkers property, but we're allowed to garden on them.
Fantastic.
I mean, we got permission from the Parks Department.
Fabulous. It really shows when you walk by and the streetscape has been cared for. These little teeny spaces, and it's like a delight. And I also think for the environment, moving people like myself away from grass, that sort of carpet of green. I have like a postage card stamp size, but it still doesn't have a lot of vegetation for insects, and it's very I'm learning. So it's the beginning of my journey, and I'm very appreciative of the work that you put in and shared with us today.
Oh, thank you. Well, and grasses can be very toxic, all the things you have to put in there to make it work, and you think it's not worth it. I mean, that's Yonkers. It's hilly, and it's got little postage stamp pieces of property. So my yard is pretty typical.
Beautiful.
Legislator Walter, any news for seniors that you may have?
So you may have been inundated, but the information should have gotten to you somehow about the vaccine.
Yep.
It's now open today to 75 and older. There's a state website where you can determine your eligibility. And then I've heard two things. One is you get a list of locations and appointment dates. And the other is it's just locations and you have to call them. So be patient. It's the first day. We really do have many, many more sites than phase 1A, which was just hospitals. And I think the federal government was going into nursing homes. But we're all going to get it soon or sooner or later. And please just be patient. And until you get it, please be super careful about your health. We don't want any more cases, and certainly no more people getting sick. So.
Thank you for that, and also thank you for joining our program.
Yeah,
really
I had on my calendar. I couldn't wait to see Catherine because I knew her from.
Good.
Awesome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to see some faces, and thank you for the presentation. And thank you to Legislator Walter for that update regarding the vaccines. We've been getting calls all morning and doing our due diligence to find out exactly where we are, since the governor has announced that seniors 75 years and over are now eligible to receive the vaccine. However, the hospitals and the local health center and some of the places listed are still waiting for additional deliveries of the vaccine. So please feel free to give us a call as we get updated. We are going to continuously update anyone that calls us for information. We have a call tomorrow with the county, a call Wednesday with Westchester Medical Center, and I'm waiting also for the hospitals to get back to us as soon as they know and the anticipated time or date of the delivery of the vaccines. There is also a website that the county center is starting to schedule times for you to be able to go and get vaccinated. I went to do it myself, and I see that February 21st is the first available time to be scheduled to get a vaccine, but it's not clear on whether the vaccines are here in Westchester or not yet. So I would suggest just calling us like legislator Walter said, things are changing, just be patient. We're going to know more tomorrow. We're going to know more than that on Wednesday. So today's the first day that they're eligible for seniors 75 and over. Now we have to find them. Okay. So I hope that answers some of the questions. We've been getting calls all morning.
Your fish stay there all winter?
Yes, they do. We don't feed them, which again, everything I've done, I had to learn. I did learn that you don't feed the fish in the wintertime. They like bears, they go into hibernation and they slow down. I do have a little heater that I put in. My source for all these things is the Pond Guy. If you have a little water feature, the Pond Guy is great and they're very helpful. That's an online service. I have a little heater that sits in there and it doesn't heat the water. What it does is make sure that there's at least a circle of, if it's a really, really icy time, that at least there's a circle in the ice that the air in there can evaporate so that toxins don't build up. I also have 2 little blue balls that are bubblers, and that sits at the bottom and it just keeps oxygen going. You don't have to have those things, but you want a healthy fish. I don't have koi, I have basic goldfish. But if you remember last time I told you that there was a heron who came along and decided to snack on my fish in the middle of the winter when he couldn't get anything out of the Bronx River. So we lost about 17 of them. But I have 5 or 6 now, and I just want to make sure they get through the winter.
Thank you.
Catherine, last time you left me with the idea of think big and start small.
Right.
What I would love to be able to walk out in my backyard and be in Monet's garden. And
We all.
yes, but so I thought if I could, the water lily, I don't know if that's a too big a project or whatever. Can you have a small artificial water, of course, and just for a water lily, or do you need a big pond for water lilies?
No, a lot of people, particularly in Manhattan, they have little ponds on their porch. What you can do is get like a big old barrel. The people I would talk to about this, some of the garden centers, well, let's see, let me back up. I got 1,000 things running through my head here. I just focus on one thing at a time. You can get a big barrel. You can get, if you go online, you can find all sorts of little apparatus that you could use for water that make little water gardens for porches and small yards. It's above ground, or you can get forms that you can put in the ground that are small. And then if it's, like a regular old wine barrel, you can certainly have a water lily in there. That's not a problem at all. And you get a hardy water lily, not a tropical one, so that they'll be around next year.
Great. And then
and the other thing, thank God for Google, I just frequently Google all the time. For instance, I'm thinking of changing the pathway in front of my house to brick, because we don't really have a lot of that, and I like that. And so I just put in, brick pathways, and boom, up come 1,000 photographs. I thought, oh, this is helpful. So look up water gardens. It could also go to the Pond Guy. I'm sure they probably say that they have that on their website, or they have, if they don't, there are water garden websites. But I know you can definitely get tubs or, and they're all different. Some of them are more attractive than others. It's like pots. You can get really fancy pots or really simple pots, but definitely a water lily will survive in there. And then they have water lettuce, which is a floater, but you kind of want the flower, but it needs to go in the sun. My pond is not in the sun as much as it should be, but I still get the water lilies still work.
okay. Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We do have a question in the chat. What a wonderful garden. How much time do you spend gardening in the spring?
A lot, but I think it's very therapeutic. I am not athletic. I know I should be out there exercising all the time, but I do garden. I find I get my strength from the garden. In the spring and in the fall, gardening can become yard work. There's a lot of cleanup. It's like your house. It's fun to decorate the living room, but sometimes you have to vacuum and push the furniture aside and do the basics. So I would say in the spring, I'm out there a good few 2 hours maybe. Well, and it depends if you've got a back problem or a knee problem or something like that too. I find I'm not out there as long as I used to be because I'm older and I'm just freakier, but I'm not, my back's fine. I would say a couple hours a day. And it didn't happen overnight. And as you can see from some of the pictures, things changed. We had trees that fell down and other things have to be done. So even whenever you think it's all done and this is really great, Mother Nature comes along and goes, nah, I'm in charge. So suddenly shady areas become sunny areas and vice versa. So, and then there's time, going to nurseries and just walking around and getting, you do it because you love it and it's a labor of love and you go out there as many times as you have. And, if most of us are retired, you have the time or you make the time because you like it. It's not a job. If it's something's too hard, like that hill of mine, I thought I got to get rid of this. It looks awful. It's ruining my yard. I hate using it. It kills me. So I spent the money, and which wasn't a lot. I mean, it was not as what I thought it was going to be. You just have it's a major thing. I spent the money. I had it done, and I'm thrilled.
Hi, everyone. This is Z from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis and Barbara from Newark. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Westchester County Legislator Ruth Walter, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.